What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Total Takedown for UFC Las Vegas. This is Pub Sports Radio. These lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports, and we're going to take a look at totals, overs, unders, how long are we thinking these fights are going to go, things like that. First fight of the night, we've got Abubakar Nurmagomedov falling out. Jared Gooden is coming in short notice, filling in to take on Carlston Harris. Now, this one doesn't have a line yet. They just have a money line. It's like minus 300 on Carlston Harris. And Jared Gooden's a guy that's got some serious finishing upside. We've seen him knocked out once outside the UFC, I believe. I'm going off memory here. But if I remember correctly, that was on short notice, up a weight class when he ended up getting knocked out. Carlston Harris has that big old clubbing power. We know he's got that. But both these guys are solid on the ground. Jared Gooden actually is a BJJ brown belt, unless I'm mistaken. He may have been upgraded to black belt. I can't recall since the last time I looked him up. He, got done from the UFC. He's worked his way back. I'm a fan of the guy. I want to see him succeed, but he's got big, heavy power. He's one of these guys that carries that power late. Like I said, he's dangerous with the submission game. If he can outlast Carlston Harris, maybe drag him deep into the fight, there's a chance he can get a late finish. Carlston obviously is very dangerous. He's very live for that early finish. I would expect them to probably put this total at 1.5, expecting Carlston to kind of smoke through him. Coming in on short notice, we could get the banger version of Jared Gooden, which we've seen before. I could see that under being something worth playing. Let's see what the number looks like later in the week. Next up, we got Tyson Nam taking on Bruno Silva. Total set at 2.5 for this one. The over 2.5 is plus 100 even money. The under 2.5 is minus 120. I wouldn't mind looking at violence here on this one. So Bruno Silva is a very slick grappler. He's got strong offensive wrestling. He's got that karate style fight ready striking that we've seen Henry Cejudo use. Hard leg kicks. I could see him beating up the legs of Tyson Nam. But you know what? Tyson Nam is very durable. He's very tough to get out of there. He's very tough to finish. And he's hard to take down. On the feet, though, Tyson Nam, he's a little bit low volume, but he's got crazy power for this weight class. He's one of the few true power punchers for this division, and we've seen Bruno Silva get dropped by other guys that have that kind of pop in their hands before. I struggle with the under 2.5 because usually I need both players to go ahead and give me something to be able to cash an under. Tyson Nam by knockout makes some sense to me, but Bruno Silva extending this fight, trying to outvolume and outpoint Tyson Nam, that makes some sense to me too. So I could see this thing going over 2.5 at plus 100 if Nam doesn't find the exact button shot that he is looking for. Tony Gravely taking on Victor Henry, another total at 2.5. Over is minus 170, under is plus 150. Now, Victor Henry, since he's been in the UFC, looks like he's an over machine, high volume, point striking, stays on the outside, but pre-UFC, he's actually got a decent number of finishes on him. You guys know me and Tony Gravely. We've had a bit of an up and down relationship. Good solid wrestling, questionable gas tank, questionable durability. Sometimes, he looks like a world beater some nights, and other nights he comes in and looks like anybody can handle him. So you never really know. If you get good Tony Gravely, he can just run straight on through people, but he's got big power, and Victor Henry is extremely hittable. He hasn't been put out yet. He's only got losses by decision, but that doesn't mean that nobody at any point is going to crack him, and he's already taken a lot of damage so far in his UFC run. I kind of like violence here. Kind of like the plus money on the under 2.5, whether it's Tony Gravely gassing out from trying to get the takedowns and then getting pieced apart by Victor Henry, or it's Tony Gravely landing a bomb on the left side of Victor Henry's temple. I think somebody's going to end up going to sleep in this fight. JJ Aldrich taking on Ariane Lipski. We got a 2.5 here for this women's MMA fight. Over 2.5 minus 190. Under 2.5 is plus 170. And another spot where I would be tempted to look at violence. JJ Aldrich is very well rounded. She's tough. She's gritty. She knows how to wrestle. She's got good boxing. Lipski is chinny as all get out. She's actually got good solid offense. She's a glass cannon for this weight class. She's got decent offensive striking, but she is null and void when it comes to her defense anytime she goes for it on the feet. And her submission game offensively is very, very solid as well. I think JJ could take Lipski down, and if that happens, we've seen JJ submitted, obviously a much higher caliber opponent, but Lipski is an opportunistic finisher. One of these ladies could catch up a sub, and honestly, if JJ just bangs her on the button, even though she's not the biggest power striker we've ever seen, I'm not convinced Lipski can take a shot from anybody. Believe it or not, I would be looking at violence on this fight. Guido Canetti taking on Mario Bautista, a 1.5 total, over 1.5 plus 160, under 1.5 minus 180. This is not a chalk under that I'm looking at fading. Guido Canetti is kill or be killed in that first round in every single one of his fights, and when he does not get it done in the first round, he does it within the first minute of the second round, and that's like every UFC fight he's ever had. He's taken on Mario Bautista, a guy who's headed for the top 10. So yeah, I expect this one to be over and in a hurry. Josh Fremd taking on Sequarius Dumas, UFC newcomer here. Total set at 1.5. The over 1.5, under 1.5, we got to pick them, -110 both sides. I actually would be leaning a little bit towards the over here on this one. Sequeirius has had some really quick finishes. I don't doubt his power and his ability to get things done early, but Josh Fremd is relatively tough and durable here on the feet. He does struggle with his submission defense. He does struggle with his grappling defense, but this is a big step up for Dumas. So even if Dumas is in the driver's seat here in this fight, I do think he's probably going to be able to get some minutes in there. I think Josh Fremd is going to be able to survive and extend this fight at least a little bit before he gets caught, if that's the way the fight ends up going. And if Josh Fremd wins this fight, I don't know that he's just going to bink Dumas and be done with it in the first round. I think we might actually get a bit more of a technical, slower-paced fight while this thing drags a little bit deep, both guys thinking they'll have the advantage when that happens. Or Sequeirius Dumas using that wrestling, taking down Josh Fremd and staying on top of him until he finds a submission or some ground and pound. I actually kind of like over 1.5. Davey Grant taking on Raphael Assunção. We got another 2.5 here. The over -175. The under 2.5 +155 via Superbook Sports. And I'm struggling with this one. That's right about where I would set this total personally, because Davey Grant is a round 2, round 3 machine. He backs people up. He cranks the volume up as the fight goes on. He carries that power late, and he beats people to a pulp with those big clubbing power hooks. Raphael Assunção looks to use that grappling. He's got solid BJJ. We've seen that be kind of the Achilles heel for Davey Grant, though, as he gets taken down and he gets submitted. Raphael Assunção is now 40 years old at this point. Grant is 37, so he's no spring chicken himself, but we've seen how durable that guy can be. We've seen his face cut open and bleeding, and he just takes a beating time and time again and comes back and asks for more, sir. I kind of like under 2.5. Whether it's Raphael Assunção going to the grappling early and using that submission offense that we know is in that back pocket, I do think he can potentially catch Davey Grant, somebody who's struggled with the submission grappling in the past on the ground. And then if he's unable to do that, kind of think Davey Grant backs him up and binks him with one of those power hooks as the fight gets extended. Whether it's round 2, round 3, I'm not sure. That 2.5 scares me. It might be in that final 2.5 minutes where the finish comes, so I'm probably not going to bet it, but I lean to the under. Łukasz Brzeski taking on Karl Williams, a 2.5 here for this one. Over is -115, the under is -105. And everyone and their mother is expecting Karl Williams to come out here and wrestle Łukasz Brzeski. I do kind of think that's the way. I agree myself, but he is a little undersized. He's making his UFC debut. We've seen Brzeski have all the good vitamins, and he's been much more shredded in the past. After getting popped, he does not look as physically imposing. We'll see how he looks on the scales before coming into this fight, because if he got a new doctor, things could change. Kind of lean with the over 2.5, not a total I'm planning on betting. Anton Turkalj taking on Vitor Petrino, a 1.5. Over 1.5 -155, under 1.5 +135. And, you know, Turkalj, we saw him on the Contender Series as primarily being an offensive grappler. He tried to grapple with Jailton Almeida. That didn't go well. But on the regional scene, this guy's actually got a lot of first-round finishes. He was a finisher before he made it to the UFC level, and he's taken on Vitor, a guy who's coming off Contender Series with just nukes in his hands. This guy's got so much power. At least it looks that way. Again, though, coming off the Contender Series, we're not really sure what we're getting into, but he's one of these young Brazilian prospects, 24, 25 years old. We're going to see improvements from him every single time he steps in there, and we know they've got the good stuff over there. They always come fully prepared when they make it to the UFC level, I guess is the nicest way I can say it. So you'd be holding your breath. This is your butthole pucker of the evening here if you bet the over, because Turkalj can finish, Petrino can finish with a single shot, and it's just a matter of who gets there first. If Turkalj is able to go ahead and get in on takedowns and grind this thing to the floor, I do think he can stay safe, grind minutes off the clock. But every single time they get stood back up, every time Vitor stands back up, start of round 2, things of that nature, there's going to be opportunities for that one-shot bomb to go ahead and put him back down and end the fight. So I'm going to say over 1.5, but I might be a little too coward to play it. Jonathan Martinez taking on Said Nurmagomedov, another 2.5 total. Over 2.5 is -165. The under 2.5 is +145. And I think I'm saying over 2.5. I really am struggling with this fight because both these guys can finish, but both of them also like to play the rangy kickboxing game. I could see this being a trading kicks and playing with the range type of fight that gets extended. I could also see it exploding and one of these guys, you know, maybe like crippling the leg of the other and having it be a finish that maybe we're not expecting. Martinez has been clipped and hurt and rocked before. If Said just hits a spinning back kick or something like that, it could be over in one shot. There's lots of ways this fight can end and go under, but I think we're going to get a 15-minute kickboxing match. It might even be a split decision that's too close to call. I'll say over 2.5 at -165. Zero confidence, not betting it. Austin Lingo taking on Ricardo Ramos. Total set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 120. Under 2.5, minus 140. I'm not entirely convinced Austin Lingo is UFC caliber, frankly. This guy is tough. He is rugged. He is durable. He will take a beating and then come back and punch you in the mouth. And that's something we've seen work against Ricardo Ramos, who's a little bit chinny. I think he's the better fighter. He's got the better frame. He knows how to fight longer. He's going to have all the offensive output in the world to go ahead and finish this fight, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. But if he can't get Lingo out of there, Lingo can definitely come back and he can put some hurt on himself. So I think under 2.5 at minus 140 doesn't sound half bad. That's not a bad number. Ryan Superman Spann taking on Nikita Krylov. We talked about this one to tell all of us we're blue in the face last time. Total set 1.5 again for this bad boy. Over 1.5 is plus 145. Under 1.5 is minus 160. I really want to go back and listen to the interviews and see where these guys' heads are at now that the fight has been canceled, rescheduled, and they've got an extra 10 pounds on them coming into this one. I kind of feel like the extra 10 pounds doesn't necessarily hurt the under, though. I feel like the offensive ability and capability that's going to come from having that extra weight, not struggling to cut weight again, I think that might be something that helps these kinds of guys. Nikita Krylov probably going to go ahead and look to grapple. Ryan Spann, we know he's going to look to bonk his man at the first opportunity that he gets. We know the durability questions for both of these guys. They're both such big hitters. It's hard to argue against the under here, so I'm not going to try. I'm going to say under 1.5, minus 165. Alexander Romanov taking on Alexander Volkov in your co-main event. The total 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 170. Under 1.5 is plus 150. And it's a heavyweight fight with overs. I mean, it makes sense. I think this thing could get over 1.5, but frankly, I also think that Alexander Romanov can finish this fight with one single takedown. And I know Volkov is not a bum. I know he's not a guy that he's just going to get forearm choked and big brother bullied the way Romanov has done some of these lower level guys. But we've seen his grappling deficiencies. We've seen his submission defense just really not hold up now that he's facing these high level grapplers. And I think Volkov is in for a rough night at the office against Romanov. I kind of think he's going to get taken down and he may not get back up. So I'm expecting this fight to probably finish under 1.5. Now, if Volkov defends a couple takedowns, if he does get back up to his feet, this fight probably gets extended. He may knock out Romanov in the third round. He's much more dangerous than Romanov's previous opponents on the feet. So there's a chance this thing goes not the distance, but gets over that 1.5. I can't lay minus 170 for this thing to get over 1.5 from what I've seen with Romanov. I think he's going to ragdoll Volkov and tap him in the first round. Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr. Total set at 4.5. The over 4.5 is minus 200. Holy crap, they're expecting this thing to go the distance. Under 4.5, plus 175. I will tell you guys, I run with Sharp. Not Sharp. I do run with Sharp, actually. Check out the Discord. But I run with Superbook Sports. You know, they sponsor the shows. I talk with my guy Andrew, who is one of the lead risk managers over there. They have received Sharp action on the under 4.5. One of their sharper guys thinks this fight is not going to go the distance. And I do think that makes some sense. The only problem, again, for me, though, is the durability of these guys. We have seen Merab do the stanky leg dance. He is buckled down on that. He has gotten back in the fight. He has gotten back to what works and extends the fight from there. Petr, we have seen him in barn burners. He did get hurt by Sean O'Malley, but he was able to hang in that fight and go the full 15 minutes. Like, these guys know how to dig deep and stay in a fight. And I feel like that could be one where you look back at this plus money on the under and you're like, damn, I should have cashed that, but it goes all 25. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Merab Dvalishvili does such a good job of just negating his opponent's offense. He pins you up against the fence. He'll take you down. He has cardio for days. He has no problem mat returning you, and that's something where people are expecting Petr to have the better cardio. He's got better cardio than everybody, except maybe Merab. Like, I don't know anybody on the planet who's got better cardio than Merab does. This is going to be a barn burner for the entire 25 minutes. Now, could Jan maybe defend enough takedowns to wear Merab out a little bit and TKO him in those championship rounds where he's never been? Maybe. But you're talking about Merab, who's the main training partner for Aljo, who just went 25 minutes with Jan. This guy's got better cardio than Aljamain does. I don't think he's going to have a problem in the championship rounds. I've been waiting to see Merab in those championship rounds. Could you tell me that maybe Petr has been in a bunch of really tough fights lately? He's been hurt more often than we've ever seen him in his last few fights, and Merab is actually able to wear him down and TKO him with ground and pound late in the fight? It might surprise me a little bit, but I'd believe it. So there's a chance this thing finishes. The problem for me is it gets over 15 minutes every time. Like, I have a hard time laying an under 4.5, even getting plus money, when I've only got like a round and a half where I expect maybe it could potentially finish. I'd rather pick my guy, sprinkle round 4 and 5, because that's when the finish probably happens, if it happens at all. I think it's going over. I think this is going a full 25 minutes, and it might even be another split decision. So hang on to your boots, folks. This is going to be a fun fight night. Good luck on all your degenerate action, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow for the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. As always, good luck on all your degenerate action. Make sure you check out the affiliate links, and let's roll.